Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Raw and Real Healing, a podcast for hope. My name is Damon. I am the host of this show. So if you're tuning in now, then sadly you have to listen to my dulcet tones for the next 20 minutes, half an hour. It is Wednesday, the 28th of January. January's nearly over, and it's been a bit of a week I will not forget in a hurry. And with that in mind, I thought it'd be really useful to kind of share what's going on because I believe that part of the reason I set this podcast up in the first place, not part of the reason is to kind of give people some hope and some proof, but also share what I'm going through. And I hope that in sharing, then it can help other people. So, as I said, it's been a bit of a week for me. I've got to Wednesday. I'm here. I'm alive. I've been through all the emotions under the sun this week, but I now feel in a good place. I feel like I'm kind of back. Firstly, I would just like to say thank you for all the love and support. I put a post up on social media. I think it was Tuesday, yesterday, perhaps, and maybe it was Monday night. I can't remember, but I just got so many really, really, really nice comments and things that really kind of touched me and made me feel pretty emotional, but also just made me kind of go, right, fuck it, this is, I'm here and I'm on a mission, and I really want to try and help improve the way we live our lives. And in fact, what am I talking about? I do want to do that, but actually, at the core of it, I believe that we are powerful beings. We can do absolutely anything we put our minds to. And I've been on this amazing journey over the last 5 years, and I'm kind of giving myself my own proof. And there's so many other people out there with proof of what our bodies and minds are capable of if we create the right conditions. And that is pretty much up to us. Placebos work because if your body thinks you're um, getting something because it believes it, placebos tap into the power of belief, and then they give you all the healing properties that your body needs. So if that's not a miracle, then what is? That's a sign and proof of how amazing our minds and bodies are. So let me go back to the beginning a little bit, because some people might be new who are listening to this. And let's say, my name is Damon. I live in Guildford. I'm a health and wellbeing coach, or health wellbeing performance. I like to put the word in there, performance, because I think through the Wim Hof method and the stuff I do that we can increase our performance. But essentially, I am all about health and well-being and helping people take their power back. I'm 44, as I say. I live in Guildford, and I run my own business, and I have done for about 10 years now. It started off as a recruitment business, and now I do a little bit of recruitment in the architecture space, but I've now come back to that space, and generally my mission in life is adapt and flow, is about helping people take the power back and realize how amazing we are, and that we can do some really simple things like breath work, cold exposure, that can really help us rebalance, reset, and boost your immune system in a world of constant low-level stress. And we live in a great world, but it is also a world of overindulgence and overwhelm, and there's so much going on, whether it's social media, just generally busy lives. And I'm here to kind of show some really simple tools that can help you take the power back. Now, 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and wasn't really what I was expecting. But it turns out that I wouldn't change it even with this last week, which has rocked me a bit. I still wouldn't change it. It's made me who I am. It's helped me find my power. It's helped me kind of realize how strong I am and how strong all of us are. Because I do believe what's possible for one is possible for everyone. So 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and my diagnosis is astrocytoma grade 2, which essentially means it's low grade, slow growing. They've kind of now they have done away with the benign and malignant kind of terminology, because benign sounds quite friendly, and they're not that friendly, or they could turn into aggressive little things. So they now, according to the WHO, not the rock band, the World Health Organization, well, that'd be quite cool if it was the rock band. But anyway, according to the WHO, brain tumors are now graded 1 to 4. Simply speaking, if it's a grade 1, it seems to be very clear, and it's really easy to kind of identify where the edges are. So an operation, they go in, remove everything, and kind of off you go, generally speaking. Once you get to a grade 2, it's what they call diffused. So it's a little bit fuzzy. There's no real clear area of like where does the brain start and where does the tumor start. So when you have an operation, which I had in February 2020, it's to remove as much as possible, safely as possible. And it's usually around kind of between 80 and 90%, whatever they deem is the kind of the safe amount, without kind of hitting something that's critical that might make something go drastically wrong. And then once you get to grade 3 and 4, sadly, they are medium to kind of faster growing and a bit more aggressive, and harder to deal with. But we are able to deal with them, but it takes a lot more effort. It takes, yeah, they're hard, and maybe I'll get onto that in another podcast. But I'm a grade 2 astrocytoma, and I had my kind of surgery in February 2020, just before COVID. Surgery went really well. I came out of surgery, and you're put on this system, which I hope they change the name of it. It's called a watch and wait. And watch and wait for what? Yeah. And I'd have scans every 6 months. And for the first 18 months, I'd kind of go in, I'd feel pretty fucking powerless, if I'm being really honest, and kind of cross my fingers, think I can't do anything to affect this, and have a scan and just hope that nothing had changed and that it was still kind of behaving itself, and maybe it might just wither away and die. And for 18 months, it was all going along to plan. I'd kind of go in there, cross my fingers, and as I say, it was kind of stable until we got to May 2021, May, June time. And the results came back, and they said, well, it's been growing and we need to kind of do something about this. So I then had, that summer, I will never forget it, because I hit rock bottom. And I just kept thinking to myself, I've turned 40. Am I going to live to see 50? And I didn't know the answer to that, and it scared the hell out of me. And it was probably the lowest I've ever been in my life. And so that was the kind of June time, and treatment was being planned for the September time. And I met with Dr. Liam Welsh at the Royal Marsden, and he's such an amazing man. He's so full of love. He gets me. He supports me, and even though I won't get him to kind of stand up on the stage and say, "Hey, Damon, the Wim Hof method is certified by me," he does encourage me to kind of keep doing it, and I get that, you know. But anyway, so I was then kind of under the care of Dr. Liam Welsh, and he could have put my mind at ease. And he said, go away for the summer, and not go away, just you have 3 months. It's June time, and come back and let's have treatment. Let's start treatment in September. Treatment is 6 rounds of 6 weeks of radiotherapy, followed by 6 rounds of chemotherapy. I thought, okay, fine. I'll kind of go away and try and kind of get my head straight. And in that time, I was pretty tearful, pretty down, pretty lethargic, and pretty scared. Not pretty scared, very scared. And I went over to see my uncle one day, and he gave me this book. And the book was called Radical Remissions: Surviving Cancer Against the Odds, the 9 Key Factors that people have in common. And it's written by a lady called Kelly Turner, Dr. Kelly Turner, who used to work in cancer wards as a doctor. So she's she's a medical professional. Can't even speak. She is a medical professional, and she decided she'd seen so many cases that were just too good to kind of not investigate. So she started doing all this investigation, interviewed loads and loads of people, and this is back in kind of the early 2010, roughly, maybe. And her kind of the book Radical Remissions and her case studies is now grown into a website. She continues to interview people, And at the heart of all of the investigations and the proof that she found was these 9 key factors that all people had when they survived cancer against the odds. And they were mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. The 2 physical ones were change your diet and use herbs and supplements, which makes sense. And the other 7 were mental, emotional, and spiritual. Create positive emotions, let go of suppressed and negative emotions, have a strong reason to live, trust your intuition, take control of your health, and deepen your spirituality. And there are all these testimonials and case studies in there, and it was just what I needed to hear. And that started me on this little journey. I then after that, that was the first little bit. And around at the same time, I'd remembered this crazy Dutch man called Wim Hof, and I'd read about him in a book called Breath: The New Science of a Lost Art, which is a great book. People, please go and read that book because it's by James Nestor, and it got me started on this. It's probably really got me started on this journey, and it talks about all the ancient. Well, there's so many different ways to breathe. And these breathing techniques have been around for thousands of years. All of the ancient civilizations, use the breathing techniques to improve their health, and ultimately the way we breathe. The way we breathe affects our state of mind and our state of being. It can either make us sick or it can make us healthy and happy and stronger. So yeah, the way you breathe is incredibly important, and there's so many different ways to breathe. In the book, I remember this one phrase, and it said, "There are more ways to breathe than there are types of food." Wow. Okay. Well, that's just, and each one of them has a different effect on the body and the mind. So lots of tools and things to kind of play with there. Anyway, getting back to my story, I then found Wim Hof, this crazy, from the book Breath. And I remember this guy who could have sat on stage somewhere. He was over in America, and he'd just been in an ice bath for an hour and 52 minutes and could have got the world record for the man to be in an ice bath for the longest amount of time ever. And in that ice bath, I now know that it was like a glass container, like that sort of thing they used to put David Blaine in when he was doing his magic tricks. And he was surrounded by ice. It was kind of touching his skin. And he managed to not only keep his body temperature the same, he actually managed to raise his skin temperature by a few degrees. And all he was doing was just kind of some sort of meditation and focusing his mind and just breathing in a certain way. I thought that was pretty cool. And in fact, not even pretty cool. I just thought that shows the power of the mind. And then they got him up on stage afterwards and say, "Hey, Wim, can you, do you think you can change the temperature of your hand just by kind of thinking about it?" He said, "Well, I don't know, but let's give it a go." So they hooked him up with all these sensors, and lo and behold, he could. And I just remembered that, and I thought, that's right there. That is proof of the power of the mind, the power of our ability to kind of be able to do absolutely anything we put our minds to. And that got me started. And I just remember reading this book, The Wim Hof Method. It's pretty simple. The Wim Hof Method book is called The Wim Hof Method by Wim Hof. Reading the book and just being inspired and just hearing this man saying, "Do the breath, do the cold, you reduce inflammation." And at the heart of all disease, is inflammation. So if you can reduce inflammation, then you can start to heal from disease. And I just bought into it, and I started doing the breath work. I started having showers and turning cold at the end, and then going fully cold after a while. I'd kind of build up to 2 minutes, and now, I mean, we're kind of 4 or 5 years on, and I have cold showers all the time and cold plunging all the time. Well, I am an advanced Wim Hof method instructor now. But kind of going back to the kind of timeline, so I once I'd found Wim Hof and this book Radical Remissions, it completely changed my life. It took me from being down here thinking I'm 40, excuse my French, and I'm fucked and I'm going to die young, to up here thinking, do you know what? I think I've got this. And not only have I got this, I believe that our bodies are amazing machines. They're highly complex, but actually they're really easy to use. We've just forgotten that we can actually simply use them, and whatever you believe will manifest itself in your body. So the power of belief is absolute fucking everything. And then you could also use things like breath work and cold exposure to enhance your body, stimulate it in a certain way that makes it happier, healthier, and stronger. So I finished the summer, started treatment for radiotherapy, feeling like I was on fire. And I also remember that I was full of love as well. And I think that's really important to say because I think I've lost that over the past few years. It's still there, but it wasn't as strong as it was then. And yeah, I was just full of love. And I started radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and I was in a great mood and felt strong. Don't get me wrong, I still had side effects, and it still took me down a little bit. But I don't think it was as bad as it could have been because I was practicing the Wim Hof method, and I have been practicing it now every day since June 2021, and pretty much without fail. Breath work, cold exposure, and the third pillar. You know what the third pillar is? Bit of a rhetorical question here because I'm talking to myself. The third pillar is mindset, power of the mind. And as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. Because power of belief is everything. That's why placebos work. So let's getting back on track. This is maybe turning into a bit more of a kind of initial story about me, so that people who haven't seen or listened to me before kind of get to know me. I went through treatment. I finished treatment, pretty knackered by the end. Chemotherapy really could have kicked me, and I was pretty tired. Could have at the beginning of the 6 rounds of chemo, I was kind of running and cycling. By the end of it, I was just walking. There was it was it certainly kind of drains your energy, but essentially you walk into a hospital and you see a big bag and it's got a sign of toxicity on it. You think, brilliant, I've got to fucking put that stuff in my veins, and I could never really get my head around that, but I did. Finished treatment, had a scan, and it said the scan came back saying, well, it's positive. It's been shrinking through treatment, which is what we were hoping for. We were actually just hoping to kind of keep it stable. I think that's usually the kind of the target goal, is to kind of stabilize a tumor that has been growing, as opposed to kind of completely shrink it and disappear. Because when you're diagnosed with an astrocytoma grade 2, you hear words like incurable, life-limiting, and it's going to get you at some point. Which I'll come on to that later, but I think we need to kind of change that, because I get why the medical profession say that, but I also think, bearing in mind how placebos work, if you tell someone something's life-limiting and incurable, then they're going to believe it. And I believed it for a while. I don't believe it anymore. I think I can, even despite my slight little setback, which may or not be a setback, I really don't know until I get my results and have a scan in 2 months' time. But I still believe that we can heal from anything. It does take a lot of change and a lot of effort, but actually, once you change your belief system, then it takes a little bit less effort because you already believe it and it's already in your makeup. Anyway, I got to the end of treatment. Scan was good. It showed it had been shrinking, and then I was put back onto surveillance and have scans every 6 months. And in that time, that summer, I was kind of out walking the dog with Mum, and she said, I've been trying to breath work. I'm not quite sure about it. Can you just become an instructor and teach me for free? And that planted the seed of me becoming an instructor, and I'm now a level 2 or kind of advanced level instructor. And I believe in this method wholeheartedly, and it's just changed my life so profoundly and amazingly. And Wim Hof he is so full of love. He's absolutely fucking bonkers. And if you're listening to this, Wim, I mean, that won't come as a surprise to you. You know you're bonkers, but you are so full of love, and you're inspiring lots of people. You inspired me, and you have this simple method, which is an old Tibetan breath work, which you fine-tune slightly, cold exposure, nothing new, and tapping into the power of the mind. And together, all three of them can help us heal, reset, rebalance the body, and make it stronger in the process, and release a load of hormones that do all these amazing things and do make you feel good. So I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, and because I haven't got anyone who's kind of keeping me accountable on this podcast, it's just me. I'm having to kind of think about where I'm at. So I became a Wim Hof instructor. I'm now an advanced Wim Hof instructor. Since June 2022, every 6 months, I've had a scan, and every scan, apart from this recent one, but I'll get onto that in a minute, every scan up until July 2025 showed that it kept getting smaller. So that's 3 years after treatment. It was still kind of each year, it would still get a little bit smaller. And that wasn't really, you'd expect it a year after treatment, but 2 years, 3 years after treatment, then, that really gave me confidence the last year to think, what I'm doing is working, the lifestyle changes, and what I'm doing is breath work, cold exposure, the Wim Hof breath work, the cold exposure, and my belief system changed. And I have a fairly good diet. It's actually going to get a bit better, actually. I'd say it's about 80. I still have a few bars of dairy milk here and there, which I'm going to cut out because I know cancer feeds off sugar. So I'm trying to kind of cut out as much sugar as possible. The scan I had on this month, so January 2026, I went in on Monday this week and I got my results, and it wasn't quite what I was hoping for. The residual mass of the tumour showed that it was stable. And if anything, I think it looked like it was shrinking a little bit, but I'm not a doctor and I'm not qualified to actually say that. And I know that it has to shrink by a certain amount for them to actually say it is shrinkage or regression or whatever the right term is. So let's just assume it's stable. So that little bit that kind of is left up there, the little bit of Terry, as I call him, is just stable. But then just below that, there was just this little area that could have appeared. And it wasn't there that last summer. And they don't know what it is. It could be some radiotherapy damage, or it could be a new growth and a new tumor kind of appearing. But it didn't light up I'm injected with a contrast, and a lot of people who have cancer or brain tumors are, because the contrast essentially is a load of glucose, and they inject you with it halfway through the kind of scan, and that shows if things are aggressive or not. Because if it's lit up like a firework, then it means you're kind of the tumor is kind of feeding off it, and none of that was showing up. So this little thing that is there at the moment, it's not aggressive, and which makes me think I feel really good. This is the thing I kind of came away with feeling like a little bit confused, but I feel really good. So I'm a little bit confused, but I'm trying to kind of stay true to kind of who I am, because actually last year was kind of quite stressful, but it also became less and less stressful by the end of the year. In fact, from July onwards, it got better and better. So I feel in a really good place. And I know the reason I'm going to mention that is because, stress is ultimately what causes all diseases. It's whether it's a mental or emotional stress or physical stress, chemical stress, there's so many different stresses, which is why we kind of need to kind of really think about our lifestyles these days and think about what we can do. And there's so much in our control that we can actually change that will make a real difference. So Friday, when I went in on Monday, this is like a little bit of a therapy session, and it'll be really good for me to kind of get this out and also share it, because I think a lot of people will resonate with this. Up until now, I've felt really confident and kind of strong going into kind of scans because I have my belief system, or going in for consultations following a scan. That's since I've found Wim Hof and that book, Radical Remission. So since the summer of June 2021. Before then, I felt absolutely powerless. On Monday, when I went in, and I'm not going to name the doctor I saw. It wasn't Dr. Welsh, because I love Dr. Welsh, and I like this person as well. But some of the phraseology she used, it really didn't. She doesn't know who I am, and she doesn't get my kind of belief system and everything that I'm doing, and the words that she said, but there were a few things of kind of I felt could have been said a bit differently, because what you're saying about, well, it's been 6 years since you've had surgery. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was, well, it's been 6 years since you had surgery, so it's that's when they start to grow again. And it was kind of almost kind of quite authoritative. And I was like, well, actually, I know there's lots of kind of proof in kind of Western medicine of that's what has happened in the past, but A, I'm me, but B, science is changing, medicine's changing, people are changing, and I'm it really rocked me, and it could have I felt like my power was taken away in that kind of consultation. And in hindsight, I went up there with my uncle, and he said, "Do you want me to come in?" I was like, "No, no, 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 Clive, I've got this." And hindsight, I wish he would have been in there, because it's always nice to have someone else hear stuff so they can kind of either validate you or just say, "Actually, no, you got that wrong." So next time, I'm going to make sure whoever it is with me comes in just as an extra pair of ears, because it's really useful to kind of have that. Anyway, in that consultation, my power felt like it was taken away, and there were, this person was being very open as well. They were saying it could just be radiotherapy damage, and it might, we'll do a scan in 2 months' time, and it might have just disappeared. If it's not, then we need to look at treatments. And that's at the point where I said, I'm not being funny, but I'm probably not going to have treatment anymore. I'm not saying no to it, because I think I should keep a really open mind and use all the tools available to me, but I'm not putting my body through chemotherapy again, not with my belief system. If I was at 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4.5, whenever it was, I needed to have treatment because I wasn't strong enough. My belief system wasn't rock solid. But I feel it is now, even though it's been rocked a little bit this week. I've come back to center and come back to finding who I am and realizing that all this proof of what I've done these past few years, it can't just stop overnight because of one little scan and a few words that could have hit me the wrong way. So the treatment that is potentially proposed, should it be something, is TMZ. I can't remember the exact name of the drug, but they call it TMZ. And quite a few of my kind of friends I know have been on TMZ, and it's not, or TMZ rather. I'm not American, am I? And it's not as the side effects aren't as bad as the PCB chemotherapy that I had. So I came away from that kind of meeting, and during the meeting, I felt pretty powerless. Then I came out and I felt the rage, and I got pretty fucking pissed off. I was like, you, as a doctor, and please, when I say this, if you're a medical professional and you're listening to this, I really am not having a pop at you, because I believe that all of us in this world, most of us, apart from a few little idiots at the top, sadly they are men. I don't mean the top of the world, people like Trump and whoever else they are. Better be careful so I don't get taken down. But I believe that all of us, we are all just lovely people, just trying to do the best we can in any given situation. So when words are said, they're not said with malice. So I know during that consultation, everything that was said to me was said with the best intentions. It just didn't resonate, and it didn't kind of do anything for me. But I do feel as a the medical profession does have a responsibility to think about, can we change some of these words that we're using, like life limiting? I know you want to be try and kind of be very transparent with people and give them the truth, but it's a truth. It's not the truth, And I just think if we look at the way placebos work, if you tell someone something is life limiting, and they trust you and they believe you, then it is life limiting. There have been cases where someone was misdiagnosed, and I think this was in the States, and someone was misdiagnosed with something, and they said, you've got 6 months to live. And he didn't actually have anything, and he died in 6 months. Now, if that's not the proof of like a nocebo, as we would call it, our minds are amazing machines, but the power of belief is everything. So I'd urge you, if you're a medical professional, please think about open language that can really kind of try and help empower people to kind of give them a truth, but also remind them, and maybe I'm going to step too far, but remind them that we are all different and that we all have the same bodies, and that we can actually, there's so much proof out there now that we can actually create the conditions to heal from anything out there. But you may not want to go that far with the last bit, but just try and have some open, kind of supportive, caring language, because it really will make a difference to the people you're talking to. So that's a little kind of update as to kind of where I'm at. So Monday I was rocked and felt pretty scared. I felt back like I was back in 2021 in that my world had just kind of closed in, but only temporary, because I have all this experience now and this belief system, everything I've gone through that could have. So it was a kind of temporary rocking, and then by the evening I was like, okay. I remember driving back with Clive, my uncle. I was like, you know what? This could be just what I need. This could be the little thing that maybe I've almost got a bit complacent. Maybe last year, I not got a little bit lost, but I got off track a little bit, and I wasn't as connected to the one thing that should be, that is my health and healing, and just focusing on finding the love in every situation, letting go of all that kind of negative energy. And I think I've been kind of pretty good at that, but I do also feel, if I'm being really honest, that I did get off track a little bit last year. And I've got this goal of getting the all clear, and maybe that's a little bit too big at the moment, or not too big, but it's quite hard to relate to. So this new little kind of thing, and bear in mind, it could actually be nothing, or it could be something, I don't know yet, but it's actually given me a little bit of a wake up to kind of go, you know what, let's get back to basics. Because I think that the more simpler, the better. And let's really kind of have a look at things, and what can I really change? What's in my control? Because there is so much in my control. And as I was talking to Carl, I was like, you know what? I'm actually excited by this. I can use this. And I was talking to a friend of mine last night, Scott, Scott Widow. Scott, if you're listening, Scott, Sim, and the team over in Broadstairs, sending you lots of love. You guys are absolutely awesome, and I'm so glad I found you through Neil Binderman. Neil, little shout out to you, sending love to you as well if you're listening. But I was talking to Scott last night, and we was talking about kind of fasting, and also he was kind of giving me some advice on, you know, when people kind of have a scan and they find a little anomaly and they don't know what it is. And him and his wife have had that experience where it's kind of just turned out to be nothing. And but it is stressful in the meantime. So, but we were talking about kind of fasting, and I think Scott's currently doing a 5-day fast, and I hope it's going well, Scott. And he did say he gets a bit hangry on the first night, which kind of makes sense. And as we were talking, I was like, yeah, I've got all these things I can start trying out. I can use these next 2 months to kind of start doing a bit more fasting, because I do a 1-day fast most weeks, and I do intermittent fasting quite a lot. I've done 2 3-day fasts, and I'm now going to push it up to start doing a 5-day fast, gradually kind of increasing, because after 3 days you get stem cells, and stem cells go anywhere in your body and look for things to heal. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to be doing some fasting. I'm also going to cut out sugar as much as I can, because I know my diet's pretty good, but I think I can cut a little bit more out. And I'm also going to continue to kind of not drink. It's been a year now. In fact, I have had a couple of drinks in that time, because my nana passed away a week and a half ago, and I had a couple of glasses of champagne and a glass of wine that night, just to kind of in her memory. So I have had a little bit of drink, but I went to bed sober, so I wouldn't really call that. I'm back on track, and I think it was the right thing to do at the time. So I'm kind of continuing to be sober, and I messaged Wim on Monday evening, and because he's in Australia, I think, so I thought I'd just send him a little voice note. In fact, it was yesterday morning. And if I'm being really honest, it was a bit of a voice note of like, Wim, I'm feeling a little bit rocked. I need some guidance, please. And he sent me a message back, and it's awesome, the message, because he's like, Damon, yes, I hear you. That's very natural, but he said, just this is a time to kind of deepen what you're doing, you know, no matter what it is, you know, deepen your breath work, deepen your cold exposure. And he wasn't just saying, and as an advanced instructor, he's not saying go in an hour ice bath. He's just saying deepen your practice, kind of give it more meaning. Because he said at the end, you have this belief system, and it's the right belief system, but feel it. really try and feel that belief. Don't just believe it, feel it. So as I was doing my breath work this morning, when you do the Wim Hof breath work, it's 30 deep breaths in, typically speaking, fully exhale, then you hold your breath. And then when you feel the urge to breathe, you take a big breath in for 15 seconds, and then you fully exhale, and then you go back and do that again. And I did about 6 rounds this morning. And in that breath hold, that's where I get this real deep sense of calm. And I just had in my head, I could have had Wim could have in my mind and him kind of saying, just feel it. And I was like, you get all these little tingling sensations and you get a real sense of calm in your mind. There's not really many thoughts kind of going in it. So one time a day when I can't hear my brain going overdrive. So it's when he said that, it's now given my kind of breath work a new kind of meaning to it, because I'm just leading into it. And I'm saying as I'm in that breath hold, I'm saying to myself, I am love, I am strong, I am peaceful, I am powerful, I am love, I am strong. And it's just, and I'm not saying it aggressively, I'm just continually, and sometimes I stop saying it and then it kind of comes back. But it's, just reminding me to kind of really feel, because like Joe Dispenza says, when we feel things, that's when it's an experience, and that can really change you. If you feel an emotion and it's a positive emotion and you feel a new experience, it gives it so much more meaning. And if you're trying to heal, then feeling is understanding, as Wim says. So the more we can feel, and I think we've got a little bit lost with our bodies. We kind of tend to kind of we don't listen to the signals and signs that they're giving us all the time. So I'm really trying to listen to my body a lot more, and in doing so, you start to strengthen your intuition as well, because you're listening to the innate you, and you're trusting yourself and your body. So I'm taking a little pause here because I'm thinking I've kind of given you an update as to where I am. I feel in a really strong position now. I've had a few days now since Monday, excuse me, where I've had thoughts kind of coming in and going, and I've at times felt disempowered and felt pretty scared that I was back in that time a few years ago. And now I've stepped back and I'm now excited to kind of move forward. And I've got some great people coming on this podcast soon. A Wim Hof friend of mine who's who's had stage 4 cancer, and he's just bonkers. He's got the all clear now, and he's been clear for so long, and he's got an incredible story. So look out for that coming soon. But I am. I just feel thank you for listening. I feel in a really strong position now, and I needed to go through this little process over the last few days to kind of realign, readjust, and then use this as fuel. And I do have a bit of anger in me in terms of like we need to be speaking to people kindly and in a supportive language, and I'm not letting it get to me. I'm actually going to use that to kind of my fuel to kind of go, well, I'm going to prove to people and prove to myself what we're really capable of doing. And that just simple tweaks. I'm not doing anything that's rocket science here. In fact, it's certainly not rocket science, because I'm not a fucking rocket scientist. I'm going to be doing some fasting. I'm going to be continuing my Wim Hof breath work. I'm going to be doing some Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations, and deepening my spirituality, and kind of just finding more peace in the world, finding more love in the world. That's a real thing that I'm going to be tapping into. So I'm going to start to kind of wrap this up a little bit now. But I've got a few things I'd just like to kind of go through, and I've got my little pad in front of me, because if I don't, then I do forget things. And the first thing I wanted to say is I'm starting to write a newsletter, and I've been doing it for about 6 months now. And I do it once a month, maybe twice, but usually it's not over and done over. It's not OTT. And I just share either an article that I've written that month, or I share some podcasts, maybe this podcast. Ultimately, I share tools for health and well-being to make us happier, healthier, and stronger. So if you'd like to kind of be on that newsletter, newsletter makes it sound a bit boring, doesn't it? But if you'd like to be on that, then just get in touch and send me your email address, and I'll sort you out. I'll add you to the mailing list, and you can have a little bit of little bit of some tools for taking the power back and making you happier, healthier, and stronger once or twice a month. Now, I would, whether you're on a brain tumor or a cancer journey or just wherever you are in life, I would encourage you to have a look at a few simple things. A bit of breath work, because simply you can use your breath to slow you down, calm you down in certain situations. So first thing I'd say is just be mindful of your breathing throughout the day. Just set an intention at the beginning of the day to say, I'm just going to be mindful of my breathing. And when I feel it getting a bit tense and I feel I'm a bit stressed, I'm going to think, oh, how is my breathing? And then go back to kind of slow, extended, long exhales, just slow breathing, just to calm you down. And you will start to kind of trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and your repair kind of system. And it will calm you down and it will reduce your heart rate and it will bring you back down. So have a little think about breath work and how you're breathing, and try and breathe in through your nose and use your belly and your diaphragm to kind of do your breathing. There's plenty of stuff online. In fact, James Nestor, if you look at mrjamesnestor.com, he's got some breathing videos on there that are all different types of breathing. So have a little look at that, and that'll give you somewhere to start with. The other thing, this won't surprise you at all. I'd just encourage you to have a look at the Wim Hof method. There's plenty of free stuff out there. Go to the Wim Hof Method website. It is literally wimhofmethod.com. And there's plenty of free stuff to kind of practice with. You can download the app and do a certain amount for free. Then you do have to pay for a little bit. I don't think it's much. It's like 40 quid for the year to kind of get all the extra features, but you get plenty of free features as well. And there's loads of under the science tab on the Wim Hof Method website. There's all the new science experiments, and there's some amazing stuff. Wim keeps to work with some top medical universities in the world. And the science experiments that they're kind of going through are getting bigger and bigger, and so there's more and more proof of our ability to kind of control our health, control our immune system, and take the power back and reduce inflammation and heal. So please have a look at that. The other thing I was going to mention is fasting. There's a lady called Dr. Mindy Peltz, and I found her on Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and I think she's awesome. I'm going to call her a fasting expert, but maybe she's more of a nutrition expert. So, Mindy, if you're listening, I am sorry if I'm getting all of that wrong, but have a look for the Diary of a CEO with Dr. Mindy Peltz, fasting expert, because that's a great podcast. You can, I think I have shared it before, but there's so much information in there that you can use to improve your health, and it's all simple. And at the end of the day, I'm going to plant this little seed with you. When you do fasting, it's just a feeling. When you get hungry, it's just a feeling. And when you can get your head around that, you start to kind of take the power back. So you can actually improve your mental health and your resilience and your stress response just by doing a bit of fasting, because you're putting yourself through a stressor, and it is a hormetic stressor like the cold exposure and the hypoxia of the Wim Hof breath work. And just to remind you, hormetic stressors are great for us because they're acute, low-dose, intermittent stress that kick in our adaptive immune system, and essentially our cells start to repair and rejuvenate. So that's pretty cool and pretty much needed. Well, I definitely need some of that. So I'm going to be doing a lot of fasting as well as a bit of my Wim Hof breath work. I'd also employ you to have a look at some books. Breath by James Nestor, I think, is a great book, and it's got so much in, and it's practical as well. Radical Remission, Surviving Cancer Against the Odds. Even if you don't have cancer, I'd encourage you to read that book, because it's actually just a guide to living a life that means you can live a happy, strong, healthy life. So have a look at that as well. There's also a book which I read recently, which I think is amazing. Do you struggle from overthinking? If you're like me, then the answer is yes. And like a lot of people, Joseph Ngoyan, he has a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think. It's quite small, it's practical, it's really easy to read, and it's really useful. It could have really struck a chord with me. So have a look at that as well. in terms of your things to help you on a daily basis, have a real think about how you're talking to yourself, please. And have your own little mantra, something that you say to yourself in the morning or something that you can say to yourself throughout the day, because the way we talk to ourselves, we start to believe that. And if you're not talking to yourself kindly or powerfully, then you're not doing yourself any good. You can improve your health and well-being and your performance just by the way you're talking to yourself. And have a little think about a process for when you get stressed. Try and recognize, maybe that sounds a bit silly, recognize when you're stressed, but have awareness, because sometimes we can just stay in our stress response. So when you do find yourself getting stressed, just slow it down, maybe take a step back and go for a little walk or go to the loo or something. Just kind of change your environment, move away, and do some kind of slow breathing, and then just come back to the situation. But try and kind of be mindful about that. So talk to yourself positively. Have a mantra at the beginning of the day, and that could be something as simple as "I am powerful, and whatever happens today, I can handle it." And I'm going to take a step back and breathe when the shit hits the fan, and I'm going to kind of come back and take control. I can handle whatever comes my way, and I believe you can, because I can, and you can. Because Kelly Turner, in her book Radical Remissions, she has this phrase, and it's whatever's possible for one is possible for everyone, and I believe that to the bottom of my heart. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope it's been useful. I know I've rambled on a little bit, but it was really important for me to kind of get this out to share, and it was also a bit of a kind of a therapy session for myself as well. So thank you for indulging me. Believe in yourself, please. We have these amazing human bodies and minds, and you are so much stronger than you currently think you really are. And have a little play around with the power of belief. And yeah, just get a bit curious and toy around with it. And if you have any questions, if you're, whatever they may be, then feel free to kind of get in touch with me. My email address is Damon, so DAMON @adaptandflow.co.uk. So spelling adapt and flow and then .co.uk. Or get in touch on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. And if you're lucky enough on the elite list and you got a number, give me a call. And yeah, I am here, and I really hope I can keep sharing my journey and sharing other things that will help you become happier, healthier, stronger, because I think we are awesome. But we do live in a world of constant low-level stress. We do need to kind of start changing things, and we can take the power back, because together we are stronger. So thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all very soon.